trust is at an all-time low in institutions and in professions, and B2B sales is a big part of that, what we do, how we operate. But the other thing is anxiety is at an all-time high among society, and there's a major difference between depth of understanding and acquisition of information. Like the acquisition of information is free now. You can get all the information that you need from anywhere at any time, but depth of understanding and the ability to act on that information is what's critical. So I would say 2007, 2008, we understood that we had to become a personal development academy. I mean, that's what we did. We built people, and we built people in leadership and service and problem solving, and then we gave them the tools and systems they needed to sell. And that combination becomes magical.
Welcome to Sales and Cigars, the podcast for entrepreneurs where the only smoke we blow is cigar smoke. I'm your host, Walter Crosby with Helix Sales Development. And this episode is brought to you by Sales Integrator. Crush your sales obstacles with the Sales Integrator. Today's episode, I have a conversation with what I call a repeat offender. My buddy, a colleague, Paul Fuller. Paul's the CRO of Membrain, and he's my guest today. We have a great conversation. Again, the theme is sales leadership. And Paul drops some golden nuggets about critical attributes of a sales leader. The difficult conversations that we have to have with business owners, and the difficult conversations that we have to have with sales managers and salespeople to create accountability. Paul really delivers in this conversation. You know, full disclosure, I'm a partner with Membrain, so I've a little biased about the platform, but I've known Paul for a really long time, and I knew he was a perfect guest for this theme that we're doing on sales leadership. So go grab a cigar, grab a cocktail, strap in for another really fun episode of Sales and Cigars. Thanks. So Paul, welcome to Sales and Cigars. Again, this is your second trip around, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Thanks for having me back on, my man.
Well, it was a highly rated episode, and you're a perfect guest for the theme that I wanted to talk about. So, if you don't mind, let's kind of jump right in.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
So, I like to ask this question of most guests because it kind of gets the audience a sense as to how you think and who you are. So, is there a book specifically around sales, or maybe not, that you think is important for a business colleague or somebody that's in the sales profession that they should read?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a direct sales book, but it's not marketed as one, but it seems to me to be one of the most effective ones, which it's called The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey.
The original.
No, his son. Yeah, his son. Stephen M. Covey's the original. Stephen M.R. Covey's his son. And he wrote a book called The Speed of Trust, which is it's been defining for me. It's just how can I build effective trust? Because I think that's the core of what it's the core of what you need to do sales well.
Well, yeah, to be a leader. There's a great line in that book where he uses the analogy of a CEO and a CFO are walking towards each other in the corridor. And the CFO is like, "Hey, Paul, I was just going to drop this on your desk." And he hands him a memo. And the memo is like, 3 or 4 sentences. The CEO reads it. He looks up at the CFO. He's like, "Is this data accurate?" "Yep, it is. I checked it 3 times. Make it happen." And then they walk away. Mm-hmm. So 2-minute hallway conversation, right? And then he goes on to tell the backstory of the decision, but it didn't require committee meetings. It didn't require a lot of back and forth and prove it. It was the speed of trust in action.
Yeah, and I think it's getting so much more important now. Like I've been doing I've been writing a brief on the state of B2B sales, and we have trust is at an all-time low in institutions and in professions, and B2B sales is a big big part of that, right? And what we do, how we operate. But the other thing is anxiety is at an all-time high among society. And that's reflected in the number of decision makers that we have in deals. People, and it leads to a bunch of indecision. So 61% of deals are lost to indecision. And so the core of that, right, is how do I know I'm working with information and people that I can trust effectively? And I go back to that book because it talks about the basics of it, and it's just so I just love it. It gives a formula,
It's a great book. It's a great foundation. I think it's one of those books that from a leadership perspective, and frankly, everybody's a leader. Really needs to understand that because it helps how to create the environment. Which brings me to another. You kind of mentioned it, but there's a lot of people that take pride in reading 52 books a year, right? Because they read a book a week. And I heard a different perspective over the holidays, and it's like in the time of Jefferson, Washington, our founding fathers, and even going back as far as Marcus Aurelius, right? The ancients. It wasn't important to be well read. Wasn't the volume of books that you read, but it's actually how well you know the books that you have read.
Mm-hmm.
And it really kind of like I got a ton of books all over my office, and it really got me to thinking like, which one of these should I reread? Which one of these do I really need to go back to? And which one of these should I own? And maybe there's 10 of those books that I go back and read. I haven't come to that conclusion, but.
Well, I'm just going to add to that real quick because there's a major difference between depth of understanding and acquisition of information, right? And like the acquisition of information is free now. You can get all the information that you need from anywhere at any time. But depth of understanding and the ability to act on that information is what's critical, right? So I'm with you. I'm not a 52 book a year reader. I love going back to my basics. I'll add 3 to 4 probably each year, but I have a core of basics that I've built my life and career on, and that work. They're foundational, but and timeless, I think.
Yeah, that's something that. I think as our listeners, it might be something to contemplate. Which books had impact? Which books should we really go back and learn and own? Because there's some, like you said, information is free, even though we'll spend a couple $100,000 sending our kid to college. You'll probably have to spend more than that, but
3 kids. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Not to get you anxious, create anxiety.
Yeah. Where's my decision committee on that one? Yeah.
Get good grades, study, and get a freaking scholarship. Kids.
Yes, exactly.
Or become an entrepreneur and don't worry about going to college.
Yeah.
But for some reason, parents have a problem with that. So, all right, let me jump in because the theme of this episode and a couple that we're putting around this is sales leadership. You're the I always call it like Mr. Big Shot CRO of Membrain, but you're Chief Revenue Officer of a large software CRM organization, international, and that's a big deal. And you don't get there by raising your hand just because you want to do it, right? You've earned that route. So, and it's something that I think your approach, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're not sitting on your laurels. Mm-hmm. You're constantly looking for strategies, ideas, ways to implement old stuff that worked to go back to. It's like, oh shit, I should keep doing that. Right? Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh, very fair. Very fair.
So when you're thinking about these sales leadership roles, at what point in your career did you realize that sales problems aren't actually related to the sales team per se, right? They're not always sales problems. Is there a moment that one, if you don't agree with that, tell me I'm full of shit. But it wouldn't be the first one.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree with you. And I guess as long as I can define it like this, as sales problems aren't actually sales problems aren't actually like some of the fundamental sales techniques that we think, or systems, or those type of things. I learned that early on, like really early. I started a number of partners. We started a sales as a service business in 2007. So right before the big old crash. And we'd hire, train, and manage teams for other organizations. And I wrote these. I thought they were really good. Every new client that we'd bring on, we'd write what we called a sales execution plan, and it had all the scripts, it had all the number of calls, it had everything, and how to answer all the FAQs and the questions and everything. And it handled all the sales problems, right? It outlined solutions to all the sales problems. The challenge was really that you began to have people problems. Like the people problems are leadership, are service, are discipline. Those became the actual problems to solve, because once you started to solve those and train on those effectively and invest in teams that became able to execute on solving the sales problems, it actually became a wild success, right? It took us a while to do that, though, and so it started with us. It started with the leadership first, which is like, oh man, we've done this so long. We actually need to reinvest in ourselves as leaders as well, and so it became it was very early on. So I would say 2007, 2008. We understood that we had to become a personal development academy. I mean, that's what we did. We built people, and we built people in leadership and service and problem solving, and then we gave them the tools and systems they needed to sell. And that combination becomes magical. So,
and it's the hard part in that equation. The infrastructure is relatively easy. Right? You put Membrain in, you put your sales processes inside that, put your workflows there, you figure out how you're going to do the prospecting, it's all there. But then the people have to actually do the behaviors and activities, right? So that requires the leadership to help them connect the dots as to why they need to do that, the coaching to help them with the skills and techniques. Because we all can't hire A players and have them function as A players every day. It just doesn't work. So,
right. I think the notion of, I mean, some people are obviously more talented than others, right? There's differences in things like IQ and skills and abilities and all of those things. But I think the most effective I've ever been in my life at solving sales problems is when I can get messy on the people problems first, and talk about and coach about how we lead, how we serve, how we want to be seen, how we want to. That resonates and it changed people's lives, and therefore they sell more effectively because of it, right?
But you've connected those dots to them, right? You're not beating them over the head about hitting quota. You're helping them see that this is going to advance their career. It's going to help them buy the boat. It's going to help them pay for that expensive college education. It's going to, whatever it is they want, right? That's the part you're talking about, right? The messy connecting the dots component.
Yes, absolutely. So hopefully I was fortunate. I had some great mentors that kind of pounded that into me early on. And actually another Covey book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Like, again, that's one that I go back to all the time because it's foundational. I read that and it changed everything about selling for me. It became, oh my gosh, I can actually become, I mean, those 7 habits, not that I do all of them, but it became something that I could change about myself, and something that I could do that could, by doing it and doing it for myself, I could help and impact others. And it got me, I don't know, it changed my whole worldview of sales.
But and when you sit in the leadership role, that's the kind of thing that we need to go back. It goes back to what we were talking about with the books, right? You've mentioned 2 books that everybody's probably read, right? And I was just thinking, like, how many of those 7 can I name? and I've read the book. So I'm going to create a list of those 10 to 12 books that I need to like really go back and study. That would be impactful. It'd be an interesting side conversation to have with a group of guys. What's the book that's going to help with this thing? The book that's going to help with that. Because there's some great books out there, but if we don't know them inside and out and don't live them, it's irrelevant.
Well, I mean, even just go back, talk about sales, like sales problems, like the first 2 habits in there, right? Be proactive, begin with the end in mind, right? Those are 2 things that I should have known. Like it feels like soft skills. It feels like dumb, but to me, it's like, man, wait a second. Now if I can train that and help people see how that will impact their lives, getting them to log a call is easy. Right. It's a very different discussion.
It's different discussion, but you're doing a couple of things there. But as the leader, you're connecting with the individual as a person, in that, not just in their role, but as a person, and you're helping them see that you're really there to help them, not bang them on the head, right? I mean, you're an athlete. Your kids are athletes, right? That coach, we all had a coach at some point in our career that we would run through a wall for, right? And that coach was probably the biggest dick on the planet at moments during your time with them. But there was that thing, the French would say, je ne sais quoi, that they have, right? And that's that leadership thing. Mm-hmm. That soft skill that gets them to really, somehow you knew when Charlie was yelling at you on the football field, you knew he cared and you knew why he was yelling at you. And you got worried when he wasn't yelling at you. That's when you knew you were having trouble, when he wasn't talking to you. So I love that idea. I mean, I want to kind of switch gears and think about, as you're working with an owner of a business, a founder, CEO, that leadership committee, right? It could be different depending upon the group. Mm-hmm. You've had a lot of entrepreneurial jobs, but how do you help them see, or what's like one of those tough conversations you've had to have with them to help them see that the problem wasn't what they thought it was something else. And it had to do with the culture and the company.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've had to have these conversations too.
On a regular, yes.
Yeah. The conversation that I always find that it's tough to have is, Mr. CEO, are you the problem?
Call the baby ugly?
Yeah. And a lot of time, I mean, because I had to, in the sales and service business, I had to do that a lot. Actually, in this business, as being the CRO, I get to have a lot of cool high level discussions, right, around what they actually need infrastructure for and why and how. But that conversation is a tough one, but a lot of times it's needed. And the reason it's needed is because there are so many varying degrees of or inconsistencies in people and leaders across the board around what they want sales to be and what it is, right? Especially when you go into those founder-led businesses that they can go and they can sell on energy and vision, and they're very good at that because they're the people that knows the problem and has gone into it, and they expect their sales team to be able to do the same thing with no infrastructure, right? And no, just because I could do it. I remember there's a local beverage company here in Ohio, and I won't go into it much more than that, but like that was the conversation with the leaders. He would not provide his sales team infrastructure, and because he didn't need it, right? And that was such a flawed. It was a flawed view of what sales was, that it killed a culture. It nearly killed a company, mm-hmm. And but it's a conversation that has to be had at some point at every level of the business.
Well, I think, and as in your role is because you're in the C-suite, right? It goes back to that trust level that you have to earn to be able to have those conversations, and you get them to hear you, and sometimes they're just not, that CEO, that founder is not reachable, in that, in certain situations. I have found that most of the time, maybe 85% of the time, when you present it without that accusatory tone that I can get to pretty easily, but
Yeah.
if you do it in a way that helps them see it from a different perspective or get them to come outside of their body, that allows them to realize that, oh, I'm special. Right? I mean, I developed a product, an offering based on one of those conversations. And I think it has a lot to do with what you just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can do things, energy, vision, their title, their excitement, all of that. They're not willing it, but they just have this innate ability to share that story because it's theirs. It's part of who they are. And then they expect salespeople to come in without any, they don't even spend 8 hours with the salesperson to download because they don't even know what to download. Right. So that's a tough conversation to have. But if they don't see it and provide the tools, because salespeople, they don't know how to frame the conversation. They don't know what the right words are. That's our job as leaders to give that to them.
Yeah,
they don't always realize that.
Well, I love working with founders at that stage. I think it's a lot of fun. But you find that there's so much frustration that builds simply because they scale is there. Many founders are vision oriented, and scale is not their forte, right? But it's so much fun when they get it. When then it finally comes, and they learn that they can just build into others instead of doing it all themselves. And it's like it's amazing. And I love work. Same thing with sales leaders. Man, when you get that sales leader that can transition to be a great or that has been able to transition from being a great rep to a great sales leader. And that's not always the case that happens. Frankly, it's not the case even a high percentage of the time. But when it does, and when it clicks, and they seek to empower others, and they really find joy from that, it's like, holy mackerel! You get magic from that.
Yeah,
the same way you get with a founder that's like, okay, how do I figure this out? But that conversation, it's not an easy one to have. Like it is definitely
it's difficult to open that door.
Yeah,
but if the door doesn't get slammed on in your nose, then you have an opportunity to keep working it, because one conversation isn't going to fix it, right? It's got to be worked. But they have to be able to see that there is something there that they need to figure out. And if they have that growth mindset, if they have that desire to really get to what a friend of mine calls freedom, right? I was just talking to him earlier today, where I said, you remember the conversation we had walking down the street in the middle of Grand Rapids? And I asked you what it would be, what it looks like, what it feel like when this company is successful. And he's like, yeah, it's freedom, where I don't have to go into the office every day. And everything runs without a freaking problem happening. And he's there. But what he admitted to me today was it's uncomfortable. He loves it. It's what he wanted. But damn, do they need me? Right? Should I be looking over there to go look at things? So once you get there, you still got to be disciplined enough to not go poking in the bear, or not go fixing what's not broken. That's
absolutely hard. Absolutely. It's a different that I love the role of the founder. I also love the role of the C-suite, because I think the C-suite role and the founder role, it changes. it changes as you grow, and it changes it changes rapidly. I had one mentor that said I have a new job every quarter, but it's not necessarily the job itself. It's how you execute with the people around you as you help them grow and give them more responsibility, and obviously it takes a growing company to do that. But and sales, I believe sales is like one of the best places to do that in, right? Because you start to see people that can earn their own lunch money and then empower others to do the same, and it's just awesome. I mean, you change lives. That's all I could say. Like you do it, you make money doing it, which is good, but it's like the impact.
Yeah.
A big I word, that impact word,
Yep.
is phenomenal. And the other word is leverage, right? When you start to be able to do that in groups of people and empower them all, you gain leverage across so many. It's just, I don't know, wonderful thing.
It's part of the reward, whether you're, a CRO, a sales leader, a sales manager, somebody that does what I do. I'll have a kid, and I'm going to call him a kid, even though he's in his mid-30s. He'll call me up on a Friday when he's driving home from being in his territory all week and say, "Hey, that thing that we talked about, I tried it and it worked." And he tells me a story. I could have a shitty week, right? That could be Friday of just everything went wrong. And that conversation makes it. Impact is the right word, and I've always struggled for finding the right word, because it's not like I own that success. No, it's like he did something. He had the courage to go try something different than what he got, and it worked. Right? That's like, wow. That, I love getting paid. Don't get me wrong, but geez, that just makes it happen. And then having him go tell that to other people, and then getting that, I call it a Michael Jordan effect, right? He was a coach on the field.
Yeah.
On the court, and he was a coach in the locker room, and he was a coach on the practice court, right? Like he had pretty high standards. But if you can get your salespeople and your sales managers to do that, and that's where the leverage part of what you mentioned comes in play. It's awesome. So I knew this was going to be a great conversation. So I think one last question that, difficult questions is something we've been talking about. Pick one. Is there a difficult conversation that you've had with either a salesperson or a sales leader that, you knew going in that this was going to be uncomfortable, but the outcome, the juice was worth the squeeze, right? You went through the uncomfortable place. You had the conversation. It was received, and behaviors changed. You could tell the impact was there. Is that something you've had to do? And like, how do you navigate that just in your mindset?
Yeah, all the time. And it's kind of that accountability conversation that's where my head is going in it. But I'll take it to a recent, for example, I give a lot of leverage to our reps to be strategic managers of their territories, partners, et cetera. And I love that. I love that I can do that, and it's wonderful. I don't need to micromanage it, but I do need to help with the strategy, right? And so if somebody comes up with a strategy and we agree on it, then they're not executing on it. So, for example, over-indexing on one part or one industry or in our case, partners, those are uncomfortable conversations. Like, it's like, why aren't you doing what you said you're doing? And a lot of the times and that really becomes, I love sales and sales leadership when that becomes the heart of the question, which is, we've planned enough, we've talked enough, we've coached enough, we know each other. Why aren't you doing what you said you were going to do? right? I understand why deals don't close. I understand that we're going to lose some and all that. But when we get it to that level, I love it because it's usually not a, oh shit, I disappointed you, or oh shit, I'm terrible. It's, oh man, this is something I told myself I was going to do. I got to get back to it. And it usually is, it just came off my plate. It came out of my focus. Thanks for bringing it back. I love those conversations. And I love it when we've gotten ourselves to a point enough in our coaching and management and leadership relationship when that really is the heart of how we help people improve. Because then we can ideate too on all of the other things that we want to be doing, where we could get better and all that. But the hard part about that, and I don't love accountability conversations. It's not my favorite. It's not the place where I strive and am most comfortable. But I also know that wonderful results happen from them if you do it right. And it's also, just so you're aware, it can be the worst conversation that a leader can ever hold with somebody, because it comes off as blaming, and that's why they're different. There are people that I've seen and experienced through my career that they get that reputation of a terrible sales leader or sales manager because that's what it's all about, blaming the rep for not doing shit, not doing stuff. You are just, oh, you didn't do this, so I'll rate you a 2 out of 5, and you didn't do this, and you didn't. Man, this is, you got to get that relationship and be able to have those difficult conversations on holding people accountable early to the things that they truly believe they need to do to succeed.
Yeah. But I mean, what I hear in what you're saying is that sometimes you have that accountability conversation and it's like, shit, you're right. No excuse. I didn't do it. I got to fix that. Right. So that's like, okay, great. Now we're on the same page. And like, what do we need? What do I need to do to help you get there? Because now we're not arguing anymore. But I think the piece that people miss that you do is setting that expectation at the beginning, setting the agreement on what it looks like to be successful, setting that up, like what are the things that we need to do every day, every week, every month to achieve that strategic objective. If we get agreement on that, the accountability becomes easier because you agreed to do it.
Yeah, one of the simplest things I've done and implemented, and I try to do it wherever I am, is a time-based plan. And so if it's like an SDR or something like that, we have a weekly time-based plan that we're looking at and we're reporting on weekly. If we're managing a territory and that type of stuff and we're looking at results, we're going to have a quarterly strategic plan that we agree on. And I don't need to craft it. I don't need to create it. I don't need it to be perfect. And I don't need you to get 100% A+ on it. But what we do need to do is discuss it, talk about it, understand where we're both going. And it's also one of the most common things that gets missed by sales managers because they think it's got to be this big, perfect thing that they got to throw up to the board and all these. You need to gain small agreements and KPIs that you want with your team, especially if it's like you're an experienced account exec on a quarterly basis, how you're going to operate. And then you can hold each other accountable. And that's the other thing is like leadership needs to be held accountable to performing to the reps as well as the reps performing to leadership. So when you get those accountability, while they're not discussions, become effective, right?
Well, they become conversations.
Yeah, it's great. Right? And it's fun. Like it's not accusatory. It's not blame-based. It's not just managing by numbers. It's fun. It's moving things forward.
Yeah, it really starts with that leadership mindset, having the getting that trust that you started this whole conversation with. That thread has got to be there. It's got to be strong, and that's what allows you to navigate all of those conversations. And we're people. We drop the ball every once in a while. Even the best of the best do that. And we need to be able to pick them up and help them get back up off the off the turf and do the things that they agreed to do. And maybe they need a little help. Maybe there's something going on that we didn't know about that is impacting things. We've all experienced that. But it's building that trust, like you started with, I think is key. So we've talked a lot about leadership. I appreciate your insights. You dropped some nuggets here. What I want to be able to do here is you have a great product. I tell everybody it's the best kept secret out there, Membrain. So talk a little bit about Membrain, and if somebody has an interest, what you want them to do. We'll have things in the show notes that they can go click, but who's that person who's thinking, my CRM might be a problem. My team needs some infrastructure, and we want to do a little investigation. What do they do?
Yeah, great. Well, hopefully it's becoming less of a best kept secret, and it is. We're making an impact. I think the easiest way, and it's Membrain, membrain.com. I hate to say this, but the easiest way to learn more is to go to the website, and then we actually you can just reach out very easily there. You can also email me directly, paul.fuller@membrain.com. The person that really is looking for us and what we found as our ideal client is that somebody that's committed to crafting a scalable sales organization. And that really is where we get the most impact and we get the most clients from. And what I mean by that is they're going to have a sales process. They're going to have really good onboarding for their reps. They're going to have a sales process that is tracked and scaled and followed and coached to. They're going to be able to look at their team and say, what are the goals that we want to have as a part of that sales process? What are the KPIs and where do we want to put them and how? And they want seriously the best place in the world to be able to track and manage and mold that. That's where we're good. That's where we're really, and coach based on it. That's where we're really good. We're not a CRM and that's just a database. We are not in the marketing game. So if they need something that is, you want to build out everything on, that's not us. But that person that wants to go heavy in on B2B sales, give their team the best tools to do it and to follow a process and get better continually, that's us.
Yeah. So, I think the other thing is that, a big part of your go-to-market strategy is working with partners. I'm a partner. I'm a shitty partner, but I'm a partner. And
don't knock yourself, man.
But you're right. It's that company that isn't looking for the quick fix. I just did this thing and it should solve all my problems.
Yeah.
Right? This is a tool. The other thing I tell people is that you want to have a way to prospect and you want your people to learn how to do that in the way you want them to do it. Membrain. If you want to manage a pipeline better than you've ever managed it and have more data available and your salespeople only have to do one thing one time, like they don't have to keep writing reports, Membrain, sales projects. If you want to manage accounts and you want to do that in a very structured and systematic way, Membrain. If you want to coach, Membrain, the Elevate platform, the workflows. You got. Have you announced flows yet?
Yeah, we announced flows. It's fantastic. It's amazing. If you want any structured workflow that you need to put in your organization and want to communicate between sales, marketing, operations, consistently, repeatably, and structurally, Membrain.
And it's a wonderful tool. And I think, if people want to learn more about it, I'm happy to have conversations, but Membrain has got a great website with that background. And you do a good job of telling people this is who we can help and this is who we can't help, right? Which is what we really should do. So, all right, Mr. Fuller, I appreciate the insights. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Love you, man. Thank you.
All right, man.